waste time, and I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen. Oh, you want to go? Woo! Let's have a good time! Uh-oh. Not a good time. Hey! Where'd you go, you little shitty mouse? What up, guys? Welcome to the show, and today I'm reviewing Biomutant. It's a debut title from indie developer Experiment 101, who's a small game studio from Sweden made up of previous Avalanche employees who've worked on other titles such as Just Cause and a personal favorite of mine, the 2015 Mad Max game. I just finished it, clocking in around 12 hours, and guys, this game. This is one of those special moments between us where I get to save you $60 by playing a game so that you don't have to. So let's get into it. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button below and join me for all my future reviews. And let's check out Biomutant. Yo, thanks again for joining me, guys. And for real, Biomutant had so much going for it that I was excited about. Open world RPG with kung fu inspired gameplay on one hand, set in a sci-fi fantasy apocalypse with a slight steampunk aesthetic on the other. It looked badass, and the fact that you're playing this mysterious mouse slash raccoon type creature, it really gave me this Secret of Nim vibe, which made me think we might just get an equally dark and well-told story that might be somewhat lighthearted, but hopefully would also respect a younger audience enough to not tone down its subject matter. Nope. Prepare yourselves, guys, because I'm gonna tear this shit up. Before the slaughter begins, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the one thing that I did like about Biomutant. Sadly, there is only one thing, but it is a really good thing that I'll look back on fondly despite all the bad news that's about to follow. It's not something all gamers will like either, but I really did love how Biomutant captured this amazing vibe when I was running through its big open world. There's huge open spaces with really unique terrain and cool post-apocalyptic environments to traverse through, and you get some cool vehicles and creative equipment that'll help you get around too, either through air or across land and water. And every once in a while, guys, the sun would be setting in just the right place, lighting up the landscape all around me, casting these beautiful God rays across the sky as I ran through its grassy fields that were flowing in the wind. There'd be the sounds of birds chirping from distant trees as this Japanese-inspired Zen music played in the background. And yo, it was really, really good in those moments. Like I mentioned though, not all gamers dig that kind of experience in games, but when it fits and is done well, I love it, and Biomutant for sure exceeded here. Outside of that though, guys, Biomutant was just a friggin' torture chamber of an experience. You start out building your character, which I spun a few times until I landed with this psi-kinetic build that focused on intelligence and kinetic energy, and then proceeded into its world where you get forced to endure this clunky 4-hour-long mishmash of tutorial sequences that set up the game and its story. 4 hours at least of these tutorial pop-ups and shitty cutscenes and dialogue scenes and practice sequences that without a doubt could have taken less than an hour if everything had just been written and designed better. It felt like an epic waste of my time, and that experience ended up being pervasive throughout every aspect of Biomutant's gameplay. Even running around the world, which I liked, ended up getting ruined. The game constantly would force me to sit through these painfully long and poorly written dialogue scenes, and then task me to run halfway across its world to only encounter another horrible dialogue scene. And I'm not shitting you, would only send me right frickin' back to the first spot for another shitty dialogue scene. Absolute trash, you guys. And I'll go a bit deeper into the writing and characters when I cover the story in a moment, but it's relevant to the gameplay too, because there are a ton of fetch quests and missions that don't feel like you're actually accomplishing anything important or that are even remotely rewarding to complete. And the game has puzzles in it as well, if you can even call them that. They're this easy little mini game where you have a certain number of turns to align 2 colors in several spots to create an electrical connection that unlocks a door that you have to go through. Problem is, they're not challenging at all, and you have to complete them because they're gating tasks to opening the door that you need to get through to proceed in the game. And even if you happen to mess up, which trust me, you are not gonna mess up unless you're just completely fogged out because of pure boredom and frustration from this damn game, it has to let you do it over. So there's absolutely no consequences to getting it wrong. And the worst part is that they use the same puzzle throughout the entire game. It's always the same stupid little puzzle. And sometimes there'll even be 2 or 3 in the same damn room that you have to do. Oh, guys, such a waste of time. Oh God, I'm just losing my freaking shit on this game. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. Let's talk about the combat next and get a little bit analytical here, because this is one thing I was really excited about the game and also ended up being super shitty. You get 3 different forms of attacking in battle. Firstly, there's melee and close range combat, where you can execute various combos and you either find, purchase, or craft new weapons as you progress through the game. Then there's these psi-kinetic abilities that the game also has you grind for that allow you to do different elemental magic spells. And third and final are the long-range weapons, where you get a variety of guns to use. And between those 3 aspects, none of them feel good to use for various reasons. Melee and close-range combat suffer significantly from poor enemy feedback and just an overall lack of connection when attacking enemies. Sometimes you'll be pointing right at a guy and just will completely miss him altogether, which is a problem in itself. But when you do connect and execute an attack or a combo, it ends up feeling super weak. You are gonna do damage, but it's not gonna feel like it, which isn't boosty at all. Several of the psi-kinetic abilities also make it way too easy to cheese the fights by allowing you to spam abilities that the AI has no defense against. And the worst of the 3 is the long-range weapons, which has this horrible auto-aim function where it decides who and where you're gonna shoot in the game. Oh, it is so bad, you guys. I'll put a clip up now and slow it down so you can see what I'm talking about. Instead of a crosshair, you get this big triangle to help you aim. But it doesn't matter where you aim at the end of the day, because the game is going to decide on its own who you will fire at if they're anywhere around this triangle, and it'll constantly switch between enemies. Sometimes it'll change targets several times while unloading a single clip. And oh, let me count the ways this is bad, yo. Firstly, not having any precision aiming where I can actually hit what I want to fire at, or weapons to master, totally takes the rewarding aspect out of shooting, in my opinion. And when it switches constantly between enemies, it would totally ruin my enemy prioritization and positional planning if I ended up not killing a specific enemy fast enough. It would also have me over-aiming and correcting or over-correcting often to try and get the game to shoot at what I wanted to hit. And this was really bad when fighting bosses as well, because some of them actually had weak points that you needed to target to kill them faster. Ugh. At the end of the day, guys, all this just led to the combat and fighting feeling horrible and taking way longer than it should have, which again felt like a big friggin' waste of time. I wanted to give them props on the boss designs too, because some of them were pretty creative and fun to fight at times, but it always ended up getting ruined by either poor combat mechanics or the ability to just cheese through the fights, which sadly ended up being the most effective way to get through them a lot of the time. And honestly, the AI is just shit too. Every fight was just a cluster of enemies that would migrate or dash toward you that could easily get avoided. They never flanked, utilized cover, or stayed away from ledges or water that would kill them instantly. Every time I got into a damn fight, I just begged that there was a ledge that I could hit them off of with my Psykinetic spell. They would never combine cool attacks to disable you that were effective or countered what you were doing, and sometimes they would straight up just stand there and let you hit them. So combat was a huge disappointment, and I honestly avoided it or tried to get it over with as quick as possible, which again made the greater experience feel like a huge waste of time. And for real, there is so much more shit I could bitch about here, but I don't want to go on and on about this garbage anymore. I've covered all the major aspects, so I'll end this category by saying Biomutant's gameplay may be a decent starting point with some interesting ideas, but it never got fine-tuned or tweaked to make for a polished, immersive, or rewarding experience. Instead, it's a drudging, painstaking chore that feels like getting invited into a friggin' bitch slap. Gameplay is getting 2 out of 5 stars. Graphics are next, and the game for sure has its moments. It's super colorful with the saturation dialed up to 11, the lighting and post-processing effects were really nice, and at certain times of the day, man, did the game look super good and pull me into its world. Other times, however, you get some serious texture and shadow pop in, distant objects will look extremely static and low res, and the worst aspect for me was how freaking silly some of the damn characters looked. Whether it was a main character helping you along your journey, or a side quest character, or even a boss that you had to fight, the character designs were so childish and ugly that it felt more like a freaking methed out Sesame Street game, not a post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy kung fu game. Totally hit and miss visually, guys. I'm giving graphics 3 out of 5 stars. Audio's up next, and the game has a kick-ass soundtrack, with certain songs really capturing this lovely Japanese-inspired sound. The only problem is the entire game is composed using a total of 30 minutes of music. And for a 12-hour plus open world game, that's not even close to enough, yo. A lot of the tunes got old really fast, like the fight song or the boss song, where the same damn tune would play every time you encountered one. And the teeter-totter continues, you guys. The general sound of the world was really nice. There were lots of birds, wind, and just an overall atmosphere and vibe that was really good. But the sound effects for your weapons and attacks were just a huge miss. Like I mentioned during gameplay, the impact of your attacks or weapons never felt great, and the lacking sound effects were a huge contributor to that issue. Guns didn't feel like they kicked, and hits never felt powerful when they landed, which was really too bad. And the worst crime in this category is without a doubt the voice acting. All the characters in the game spoke this shitty Okami-inspired babbling that you were forced to listen to, and then the narrator would kick in and translate it for you. It's pure torture, you guys. Check it out.
Asks if you were tired, as it's a bit of a hike here from the village. You're such a good child, so you probably did.
But what comes around goes all the way back around.
Just horrible, yo. And the story was so bad that I ended up smashing my skip button through every single conversation about a third of the way through the game. And even then, you can't completely skip the conversation. You are forced to listen to a portion of this garbage. I'm giving audio 2 out of 5 stars. Speaking of story, Biomutant has a great premise, honestly. The idea of restoring life to this massive tree that provides nourishment and life everywhere by defeating these world eater monsters that are trying to destroy it sounded amazing. You also get the choice to align yourself with certain samurai tribes in the world and then make moves to defeat others and gain their allegiance in support of your effort, which is a cool starting point. The delivery, however, was far from cool. All the characters, including your own, are extremely surface level. Even the bosses were done poorly. I never cared about any of them, or hated, or feared any of them. There were no relationships that got put in jeopardy, or risks that were taken to achieve anything of consequence. There was no loss or sacrifices that meant anything. And at one point, you end up fighting this monster that killed your entire family. But the game spends all this time talking to you about how you don't remember the past, and even speculates whether or not you'll do the right thing. Seriously, the game has this crappy light and dark morality system that you can invest in based on decisions you make in the game. And I'm after 10 hours into this shit with my light morality side completely maxed out, and my closest character in the game is still saying shit like, "I wonder if you'll do the right thing when the time comes." Such bullshit, guys. And like I mentioned, sadly, I ended up skipping as many of the dialogue scenes as I could, which I never do. I want and love a good story in games, but this was just trash. I'm giving story 1 out of 5 stars. Last up, let's hit the settings, and we'll start with key rebinds, which were okay. WASD, ESDF, mouse and numpad were all rebindable, which was great. Moving on to video and graphics, which were located under video, and these were great. You get a bunch of options to tweak the game to your liking, whether it's for performance or visual preference, and I didn't see anything important missing here. Audio settings are next, and these were amazing. You get more than enough options to mix things however you'd like, and I highly recommend turning the narrator all the way down and just reading the text on screen and skipping through them to get through those dialogue cutscenes faster, because they will take forever. Gameplay options were okay. There's no colorblind modes, which is really unfortunate with how colorful this game is, but everything else is here you'd expect, along with a dedicated tab to camera settings. So I'm giving settings 4 out of 5 stars. All right, let's give it a final score. And Biomutant is a slightly polished turd. Sometimes the game does capture these incredible moments where you're running around its big, unique open world. But once you actually interact or engage with anything, it quickly falls apart into this messy, immature experience that's extremely frustrating to get through. I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. I did see that the developer's first big patch will try to improve a lot of the issues based on player feedback, which is good to see. But there's a lot of shit going on here, guys. I hated the experience within the first hour, and it continued that way through the entire game. So skip this one, yo. It ain't worth your time, and it ain't worth your money, and it ain't worth your sanity. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, subscribe below, hit that like button and leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I could really use your support, and I would love to have you part of my community. There's gonna be a link that pops up here in just a second to check that out. Thank you again, and I will see you on the next Gurm's Garage. GG.